You know what I thought was cool as a kid? Fighting.
It was creative, it was thrilling.
So many possible outcomes just to make kicking
Look cool.
But you know what? Fighting hurts, man.
And it's well advised not to pick fighting people.
But you know what's also cool? Video games. You know what's cool as hell about video games?
That I can fight people without the moral repercussions of my actions.
But you know what's cool as hell too? Superheroes. So when I first heard of Marvel vs. Capcom's existence, possibly the weirdest combination?
But for some strange reason, it works.
It was fun, it was stylish, we got Ryu
From Street scrapping it out with Wolverine from Men.
Deadpool vs. Dante, unironically, is a pretty cool matchup. I'd be watching this shit as a kid and I was like, got it, I wanna play. Unfortunately, as a kid with no source of income, I could only admire it from afar. But once I turned the ripe age of 14 years old, they announced Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Turns out, it fucking sucked. The utter disappointment I felt when playing was immeasurable. When looking at Marvel vs. Capcom 3 retrospectively, I was like, yeah, this is what an 8-year-old would think would look cool. Now it's the year 2023. EVO, the biggest tournaments of all things fighting games, and only 9 games can be chosen to be played at this tournament. You know, there's Street Fighter, Classic, Tekken, Cinematic, Guilty Gear, Fantastic, and wait, what? Is that Marvel vs. Capcom 3? You know what? Infinite wasn't even at EVO first released, but instead it was Dragon Ball FighterZ. And you know what we got instead of Marvel vs. Capcom 4? Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Dude, Arc System is out for Capcom's fucking neck. Don't get me wrong, I think Arc System could do this game justice, but man, Cyclops would have looked so hot in the Resident Evil engine. I'm just saying, but Marvel vs. Capcom 3 still being at EVO is still insanely impressive. It's crazy to see such an old game still have a dedicated fan base. A little crazy. I gave Marvel vs. Capcom 3 a shot just to see what's all the hype about, and it's fun. Something Infinite couldn't really do. Sure, the gameplay might have similarities, but if we're just judging a game solely based off its gameplay, but the gameplay has to be significantly better than the other content in the game, and Infinite doesn't have any content. Well, there was that story mode. What? But why didn't I have this feeling with Infinite? Maybe it's just one of those things where the previous games are just better, you know, it happens from time to time. Wait, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is gonna be at EVO this year? What? Man, I just wish Infinite was a good game. Now, the first thing I noticed when playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I was like, wow, this game looks cool. Graphically, it's a bit dated, sure, but the art style is there full on display. The character select screen is a comic book. Anytime it transitions between scenes, like whoosh, whoosh. Whenever you do your ultimate, some characters just rip and tear through the pages, and they committed pretty hard to the comic book style. And then they dropped it all for the next game. Sure, it's higher quality, except for that one time, but it's because they used assets from the old game, which didn't translate well. In the process, the game lost its style and aesthetic that made it entirely unique to other fighting games. If we just compare the UI, MVC3 is mogging the fuck out of Infinite. Even Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is significantly better. Sure, it reused a bunch of assets from the previous games, but at the time, this is when 3D graphics started forming. Just plop those characters in a 3D rendered background, it's like, wow. This is Marvel? Marvel? My Marvel? And this is probably the best Marvel game that came out for its time, because the other games sucked. But I would like to mention that the official character artwork for this game is just beautiful. Infinite is okay in the graphics department, but it just sucks so bad compared to its predecessors, which sucks because graphics matter a lot, especially in fighting games. Fighting games are easily replayable, yet only one can win, or neither. So it's really easy to just sink your hours into one fighting game. But if you're gonna invest all that hour into one fighting game, they kinda have to like what they're looking at. Gameplay is just fine, but you can't solely rely on gameplay alone. For example, SNK released King of Fighters 14 after 6 years. which was assumed to be a dead franchise, but the SGC was still upset because their game looked booty-cheeked awful. So if you want people to be interested in your fighting game, you have to do something unique compared to your competition. Sometimes it's just jaw-dropping 3D visuals, maybe it's just adding a couple of platformers, and maybe it's the characters. The initial base roster of Infinite was 30 characters, and if we look at the roster in comparison, there's a severe lack of variety. Let's see, having a smaller base roster than the previous game is, and kicking off fan favorite characters like Wolverine, Magneto, and Doctor Doom, which is where the game revolutionized his most iconic move, Foot Dive. It's even in Fortnite, dude. Like, oh my god. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 had a significantly bigger roster, but at the Marvel side was stacked, but the Capcom side was lacking. Like 30% of the characters roster was Street Fighter characters. They also had to make 3 original characters so that they could even it out. Then in 11 years, boom, Beautiful Joe, Phoenix Wright, Amaterasu, Wesker, Chris, Dante, and Virgil. They were even able to show characters that wasn't in the roster through stages and arcade endings. Infinite didn't even have any arcade endings. I wasn't the only one disappointed with the roster, many were. The Capcom producer addressed these criticisms and he was like, if you were to think about it, these characters are just functions. They're just doing things. He went to go on and on about if you like playing legacy characters like Magneto, then you would basically like Captain Marvel, Milkor, or Ultron because they're basically play the same. Okay, fighting games are essentially the martial arts of esports. You know, you get to do cool combos and beat your opponent with it, but I don't understand why people always forget the art part. Art is an expression, and the martial art you chose is a way of expressing yourself, which I believe the same goes for the characters you choose in a fighting game. Whether you choose purely for aesthetic, personality, and how even functions, it tells me how much you value and how you want to win. That in itself is art. High moments in aura. I didn't know how to transition this. For the series that innovated the tag team formula by introducing assist and insanely fast gameplay, going back to the original formula with a 2v2 style in the Infinity Stone seems kind of a step back. I know you wanted to ride off the hype train from Avengers Infinity War, but I don't see Infinite doing shit like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Sure, the game was insanely broken with many 0 to death combos, Jean Grey essentially turning the game into a bullet hell, and Virgil, I'm not over that, but I don't see Infinite matching the pure hype of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It has no moments like Justin Wong's infamous roll pop-off because he accidentally injured himself, the unlikely rivalry between F-Champ and Kane Blue River, and cool team compositions like Kane Blue River, Justin Wong, but also Kurosu and Ryan Level, which is such a shame for a legacy title, and it's only like this because it had to compete with Dragon Ball and BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. What the fuck, Arc, okay? But Capcom is at its peak right now with the popularity of Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, and Street Fighter 6. Like, come on, Reggie. Come on. Okay, originally I was gonna talk about the characters I wanted for Marvel vs. Capcom 4, but I wrote the script before Marvel Token was announced, so goodbye to the Capcom characters that I wanted. Okay, let's speedrun this. Fantastic Four. It's literally perfect. It's a 4v4 game. White Widow, cause she's kinda bad. Peter and Miles as the Shoto of this game? Come on. Jeff the Shark. Actually, no, fuck that guy. Cyclops. Where the fuck is Cyclops?
He wasn't in Infinite, he wasn't in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He's not even in Marvel Rivals. He's the leader of the X-Men. Why does nobody like Cyclops? Who else? Big Will? Yeah, that's perfect. Now, I can't forget how much Marvel vs. Capcom laid down a solid foundation for tag team fighters, unforgettable visuals, and a banging soundtrack, but people just wanted Marvel. If there's one good thing I could say about Infinite, is that it was still better than Mortal Kombat vs. DC.